Hi, Ed Diaz here. In today's video, we're going to show how to select and layer sounds from the JD-Xi into the FA workstation. All right, let's get started. So if you own an FA workstation and a JD-Xi and you don't use them together, you're really missing a really cool opportunity in your performances. So in this video, we're going to show how to go ahead and have the FA choose your sounds, but then also have those sounds play within the FA. So first off, once again, the FA has to go MIDI out to MIDI in to the JD-Xi. Remember, MIDI is a one-way street, so you got to go ahead and go out because we're sending information out of here into the JD-Xi. So now without doing anything, I can actually hear the different MIDI channels of the JD-Xi. And just real quick as a reminder, remember, digital synth is MIDI channel 1, digital synth 2 is MIDI channel 2, drums is MIDI channel 10, and analog synth is MIDI channel 3. Now unfortunately these MIDI channels are locked, so they are what they are, but it's okay. We have plenty of MIDI channels to work with inside the FA. So going back to the FA, here we go. I'm playing part 1, which is MIDI channel 1, which is also triggering the JD-Xi. So there's MIDI channel 2 from the JD-Xi and the FA layered. Here is MIDI channel 3. And same thing. And then just so you can hear, here's MIDI channel 10, which is triggering both the FA and the JD-Xi. So here's how we do it. First off, I am going to come up here and I am going to go all the way to the top where it says level, and I am going to cursor to the right, and I'm going to get to this screen in the part view, which is called Master Keyboard. Now there are two screens, Master Keyboard 1 and 2, but right now we're going to focus just on page 1. All right, so all I have to do is to come here, and it's transmitting MIDI from the FA to the JD-Xi. So I'm going to come in here just right now and just turn it off, just so you can see. And so, because I only want the sounds playing that I choose. I don't want just anything random. So I'm going to turn off MIDI channel 1, 2, 3, and 10 so we have no confusion. All right, great. So let's start off with MIDI channel 1. I'm going to now turn it to Master Keyboard. Now as you see here, I have MSB, LSB, and program change number, which, as we've mentioned before, think of it like a neighborhood. MSB is the neighborhood, LSB is the street, and program change is the house that the sound lives on. So if you remember those things, the neighborhood, the street, and the street number, the house number, you'll be good. And 99.9% of keyboards have this information, so it doesn't matter make or model. All right, so that being said, I'm going to grab my cheat notes here, and I'll go ahead and put the link in the description of where you can find these numbers for the JD-Xi. All right, so I'm going to begin by coming here, and let's go ahead and use the Supernatural Synth Tone, and the first number I'm going to put in is 95. So I'll put 95 for MSB. Get that going. Next number will be 64. All right, and then the next number will be 1 through 128. So this is pretty cool in here. So check it out. I'm going to just spin the number, and I'll flip over to the JD-Xi so you can see. And you're not seeing it because I have this on, but watch. If I hit digital synth, and I don't have to hit digital synth, but just so you can see. Now when I spin, it's actually changing the tones of the JD-Xi. This is something pretty cool. So I can have them play right in here. So let's do a D50 stack. So I have the D50 stack playing, but I'm also still hearing the piano. So let's learn how to turn off that piano. So I'll go back to my FA and put the cursor up, and I'm going to go all the way to the beginning. And I'm going to cursor to where it says switch. I'm going to make it so that receive switch, so it receives the MIDI from the key bed. I'm going to make sure it is turned off. So I'll go ahead and turn it off. And now all you're hearing is the sounds from the JD-Xi. I'll turn it back on. You're hearing piano and JD-Xi. So turn it off. And now you're only hearing the JD-Xi. So check that out. What does that mean? That means if I were to come into MIDI part 2 of the internal sounds, I'll go ahead and turn the switch off. And now I'm going to cursor back up. I'm going to go all the way back to the right to master keyboard. And let's go ahead and choose another sound from the JD-Xi and actually layer it inside the FA. Now normally it is not possible to layer sounds within the JD-Xi, but thanks to MIDI and the FA, you can layer. All right, so I'm going to begin and I'm going to turn that external keyboard part, which is off, to master keyboard. And I am going to go ahead and put it on MSB 95. There we go. And I'm going to choose a slightly different number because there's a couple of different banks and you'll see them when I have them on there. And I'll put them on the screen here so you can see. I'll go ahead and put it on 65. Okay, great. Right here. And just so you can see, I am going to switch the JD-Xi to Digital Synth 2. You don't have to do this when you're programming, but this is just so you guys can see on the screen. This is pretty neat. So I'm going to be switching the sounds in the FA right here, moving over to the program change, and I'm going to be spinning the dial wheel and watch the JD-Xi. It is not spinning. Oh. Oops, I put a wrong number. That's why it's not working. Look what I did. I put 96. There we go. 95. 65, 25. Let's take a look. There it is. It is working now. So that is a good, you have to take your time and really look at the chart and go by it, go by the numbers. So now if I want to, I can come in through here and look through the sounds of the JD-Xi. But remember, they're going to be played from the FA. So let's go back in here and let's find a nice sound to kind of go with the bells, and we can just pick something now. So let's grab something real quick. Not two bells. Let's grab maybe a steel drum. All right, great. So now that is there, and that isn't the normal layer I would probably do, but for this example, it'll help us hear the difference between steel drum and that D50 bell. All right, so now that we have those two together, I'm going to switch back over. Cursor up, and I'm going to go all the way back to the left. And remember, part 1, the switch is off for the internal. Part 2, the switch is off. But now I'll go back and I'm going to hit the 2 buttons here. And this is going to allow me to layer and split. So I'm going to just do a big layer right here. So now I'll cursor back over. And so now I'll cursor back over, and I'm going to turn on that part 1 and part 2 together, and once again the internal switch is off, and that is going to play. That's going to play those externals that we set. Let's take a look right here, master keyboard, and once again it is playing steel drum right there. And then if I go to the top one, it is playing that D50 stack, which if I go back into my FA and switch it, I can move it to something else. Okay. So once again, to do that, we went in very quickly and I turned off the internal switch of the engine, and then I went to here, the studio set, and I hit both of those buttons simultaneously, and that gave me the ability to layer and split inside the FA key bed. And then I also went to the master keyboard section and adjusted the correct MIDI implementation numbers for there. Now if I wanted to save this, is very easy. Let's take a look. I can just go to my right button, press the right button, hit studio set, and I can press enter, and I can go ahead and rename it, and I could call this JD-Xi layer. Let's go ahead and do that real quick. Let's call this JD-Xi, and I can call this layer. Okay, and okay to name it. And now all I have to do is choose where to put it. So in the previous video, we created a JD-Xi template for the programs. Well, now I'm going to go ahead and put a layer there. Right, And I am sure, okay. So as you can see, going into the FA and having the FA trigger sounds from the JD-Xi and then go in and layer them, it's not too hard. It just takes a little bit of practice, a little bit of time, and have those MIDI implementation numbers. So once again, remember, MIDI out from the FA to MIDI in of the JD-Xi, and just take your time and follow the steps. All right, I hope this helps you out. You guys take care, and we'll talk to you later.